Today's episode of Talking Wolves is brought to you by Green King Sport, where football is more than a game.
That's right, Matt, and Green King Sport venues are showing every single one of Wolves' televised fixtures across the 23-24 season. And with more than 900 sports pubs across the UK, it doesn't matter whether you're in Wolverhampton or Warrington, you won't miss a single minute of the action.
Keep an eye out during the season for events, offers, content and competitions that put you closer to the action. But if you want to catch any of this week's football, get yourself down to your local Green King Sports pub.
Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Talking Wolves podcast. Hope you guys are keeping well and safe. My name is Dave, and only the one co-host alongside me today. We've got Mr. Jord Russell. Jord, how you keeping?
I'm all right, mate. How are you?
Yeah, all good. It's just the two of us today. Unfortunately, due to other circumstances, Finn and Matt can't be with us. But obviously, we'll talk about that delightful game over the weekend. We'll look ahead to Everton, and of course, we'll answer your questions as well. Been up to much this week, Jord? I know, obviously, we're courtesy of Bud Football. They sorted us out some tickets, which you took advantage of. But up to much else last week?
Nah, not to be honest with you. I was a bit unwell at the end of the week, last week and stuff, so I was pretty bed bound, if I'm honest with you, Thursday, Friday. Got myself up for going to the Wolves game, and then I got back and just thought, what was the point in that? Why? Yeah, no, to be honest with you, not a lot really. Just enjoying Premier League, just football being back on the telly. Just been watching a lot of sport, and that's it really. To be honest with you, chilling out. How about yourself?
Yeah. No. Again, just trying to keep yourself busy. Played quite a bit of football last week as well. I played smaller goals, and I had a very good game as a keeper on Friday, which it was an enjoyable one. And then one that got a few little bit of credit in the pub afterwards as well. But I won't get too big headed anyway. But yeah, I agree. The amount of football on, I think Sunday yesterday was quite good. Even Saturday, the 2 evening kickoffs come back after the
really
Wolves
good
game, having 2 night games, so pretty good. But yeah, Joe, we may as well chat about that defeat. It finished Wolves 1, Brighton 4. A disaster of a performance from Wolves, and a result, obviously, a lot of excitement, I would say, Jord, after last week. I know we lost against Manchester United, but everyone took a hell of a lot of positives out of that performance, and we're rubbing our hands together to seeing Gary O'Neill ball at Molineux, and it was a bit of a disaster in the end. But sort of your quick thoughts on that performance overall. I'm sure we'll discuss it a lot more in a second.
I think the score, it wasn't as bad as the score line. I think we had a real bad 10 minutes after the start of the second half, and completely killed us. I think the scoreline flattered Brighton a little bit. I don't think we were as bad as what it suggests either, but you don't take your chances at this level, you get punished. And Brighton were everything that Wolves want to be as a football club.
Yeah,
Play very aggressive, front foot, pressing style football, but also very clinical in it as well. And yeah, I mean, De Zerbi's got them playing some fantastic stuff, and you know what? It was a privilege actually to watch them. Down Molineux. I know it's quite a weird thing to say about your own team, but actually watching Brighton in transition and how they sort of picked us apart, I thought they were phenomenal, and probably the best team I've seen down Molineux since we've come back up in the Premier League now. I think they were that good on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, there have been some good performances. I think City, when De Bruyne showed up as well and knocked the 4 past us, there have been very good performances. But I think I sort of agree with you, and I mentioned that on, I think, my reaction, and that's sort of why I kept off social media, because I think now it's almost 48 hours after the game's happened. People have calmed down that little bit. I think we've realised and appreciated that Brighton are going to be towards the top end of the table, or at least, both them and Manchester United will be fighting for European football. So there's no shame in defeat. I think it's just obviously the way that Wolves have gone about it on Saturday. And like you said, there was that 10 minutes, 45th minute to the 55th minute, just pure stupidity from Wolves for the straight off kickoff to give the ball away. And obviously Brighton a lot more ruthless, a lot more fight than Wolves. I think we made it easy for them in regards to the defensive
absolutely
side of things, which we'll talk about. But the first goal, Jord, Mitoma, he had Nelson Semedo's number last year, especially at the game at Molineux. Semedo ended up, getting sent off because Mitoma was getting the right side of him too many times. And, he just went from strength to strength last season. Now, Semedo had a phenomenal game last Monday. So it's Sod's Law. I'm not going to say he struggled too much. I think that'd be harsh on Saturday, but you knew that Mitoma versus Semedo was going to be an interesting battle. But that first goal for him, and it wasn't just Semedo, it was 2 or 3 other players that Mitoma just, glided past. And it was a great goal from a Brighton point of view, but Wolves would be surely really disappointed with that.
Yeah, and I think Semedo, again, I thought he started the game quite well against him. Up until the goal, I thought he was actually playing quite well against Mitoma. And then, I mean, the goal itself, I mean, in the stadium, it happened so quick. You just like, wow, like it was just a turn of pace, and it was just like, that's an unbelievable goal.
Yeah.
I think looking back on the highlights and stuff, I mean, Semedo had his hand on him, on Mitoma, let it go. Gomez has come across, could have took a yellow card, didn't want to engage with him. I mean, there's about 15, 20 metres gap between Dawson and Kilman that Mitoma just ran through. Again, Kilman could have took him on the edge of the box as well, if I'm honest with you. Let him go through. And then it's an unbelievable finish. I mean, seeing it from behind the goal as well, he bent it from outside the post in. It's just a very good goal if you're looking at it from that point of view. I think, hindsight's a wonderful thing. I think Semedo, Gomez, Kilman looking back at it now, and I'm sure they will be looking back at it at Compton. They should have took a yellow card. They should have just brought him down, taken the yellow card, and stopped it in its tracks. They didn't, and this sort of level of football, you get punished, and he's a very good footballer, and sometimes as well you've got to say it's a very good goal, and he's exploited a gap in the back of the a gap in the back of the Wolves back four.
Yeah,
just drove with the ball through it. It's a good goal.
Yeah, he's like I said, I think he could have been stopped 2 or 3 times. It will be interesting to see, not just the early stages of the season, if the referees are keeping up with this level of officiating with the bookings and so on. Almost if players are worried about taking the cheap bookings like that, in case it comes back to haunt them later on in the game. And it was still an early stage of the match. There's still 60 minutes or whatever still to go. So it would be interesting, but I think O'Neill will be very disappointed with how Wolves dealt with that. But the story could have been so much different, Jordan. I think between the goal and half time, Wolves probably put the pressure on Brighton a hell of a lot more, and the game could have been completely different. Now, Fabio Silva had the ball in the back of the net very early on, which was offside. And then he had the key opportunity, the biggest chance of the game, really, for Wolves, where he beat the offside trap. I thought he timed that run brilliantly. But I don't know. I think you could give credit to Steele for the save. But for me, Fabio Silva, and we give him a lot of credit on this channel. I had a few people, well, I say a few, 1 or 2 individuals tweeting me saying, well, why aren't you talking about how bad Fabio Silva was? I give him a lot of credit, but he's got to be doing better with that opportunity, Jord. I know he had one eye possibly on the flag. I just don't think he positioned his body quite correctly. What are your thoughts on that? Because if Wolves take that chance, more than likely they're going at half-time 1-1, and it's a completely different game.
Yeah, 100%. It was right in line with me, actually, and I thought he was offside in real time, but obviously Estepinian actually played him on. I think Fabio was looking across the line a little bit. But, I mean, again, Premier League, you're in the Premier League now. Chances are few and far between, or at least there have been for Wolves over the last couple of seasons. I know our XG would say differently in these first 2 games, but those are just the sort of chances you've got to be taking, and Fabio Silva as a striker for Wolverhampton Wanderers is going to get judged on goals.
Mm-hmm.
Now, those are chances that he needs to be taken, right? And again, I think Steele did Steele positioned himself extremely well. I think Fabio will be disappointed with it. I think, again, yeah, we are big fans of Fabio Silva, but I think as well you've got to be fair and offer balance as we are on as we do on this channel. And I think we're all clamouring for him to start after his cameo at Old Trafford because he had a fantastic 20-25 minutes at Old Trafford. I thought he was particularly poor on Saturday in terms of his first touch. I don't think he really got into the game, and I think it was a confidence thing. I think if he scores a goal, I think he gets 1 goal for us. I think he'll just start coming and coming and coming. I've got every faith for that happening, but I think it was just a confidence thing. I think he just never looked comfortable in that scenario with Steele, and it was a good save, but Yeah, I think if he'd been playing, I think if he was involved in the game as he was at Old Trafford, and his back was up a little bit, I think he'd have took that chance. I just think his
Yeah.
head was down a little bit, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think it almost felt like a nervous performance by Fabio.
100%.
But I did feel, because there was one chance before the goal where the ball's played through to him, and it might have been against James Milner, to be fair, but his pace, he looks quicker than I think he's quicker than what people give him credit for, Fabio
Yeah.
Silva. And he did a really good run and started to move. Same with that chance there. I know he didn't put it away, but his turn of pace. And somebody near me in the South Bank was saying he's crap, he can't finish, he's got no pace, this and this and this. And I thought, well, he's already gone on 2 runs there where he's got the better of a defender and got the right side of a defender. So I think that is, that's quite harsh. But it was. But don't get me wrong, I don't think O'Neill made a mistake in starting Jord, because that's
No, I
the
don't
11
either.
that every single person, maybe bar Huang, that's the 11 that everybody would have wanted to start. And like you sort of alluded to earlier, Wolves are 4th in the league for expected goals with 4.5. That's 0.4 behind Aston Villa, who've scored 5 goals. And in terms of big chances created, Wolves are in the top 6 in the league as well. So I think that's an encouraging sign for us, because we weren't scoring last season, but for me, it felt like we weren't creating these chances. This season, it's the opposite. We've had 2 games against 2 teams that are probably going to be in and around the top 6, and we are creating a hell of a lot of the opportunities. It wasn't just Fabio's chance as well, George. On the stroke of half time, Ait Nori had one as well, and these are the moments, we put these away, and we're talking about a completely different game, aren't we?
Yeah, 100%. We could have been. I think we could have gone into at 2-1 at half time. Everyone's talking about a completely different performance and
Yeah.
different Wolves game. I think it was a little bit trickier out in the Reece chance. I think it bounced on him a little bit, and he sort of hit it over the bar. But again, it was a good ball by Fabio. Poked it through and moved through. And I think at half time, I know we were 1-0 down, but being in the concourse and stuff and talking to people, everyone was pretty pleased. Everyone was pretty, confident with how the first half went. And you thought there was definitely at half time, thought there was something in it still for us. We've gone toe to toe with them. They haven't outclassed us at any point really in that first half. And it felt like second half there's definitely goals in it for us. And then it just, as we know, second half happened, and it didn't exactly go to plan, did it?
It's still hard to figure out and put a finger on what the hell had happened to Wolves in that first 10 minutes, because Brighton, to be fair, and I know Wolves had some encouraging opportunities after those, after Brighton went 4-0 up. But, they probably were back into first gear, took their foot off the gas because they didn't really need to go for it. But that 10 minutes, Jord, it started from the kickoff, which I've already alluded to, which we actually tried after Mitoma's first goal.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
And we lost the ball straight away. And I'm not too sure what the thinking behind it is, but obviously we lose the ball. I'm not going to solely blame it on that, because I think Wolves have got more than enough time to readjust and get their shape back to what it needs to be, but found it far too easy. And I think it was Danny Welbeck with the initial first shot, and it ended up falling into a stupid hand for that second goal. And then Solly March scores the third and fourth. But all 3 of those, Jord, I think are avoidable, and defensively, Wolves should have done a hell of a lot better. And plus, even after the second goal, you've got to think, right, let's hold on to the ball for a little bit here. Let's try and, kill any sort of momentum Brighton have got, and they just didn't do that.
Self-destructed, literally self-destructed. And I think, it was weird because I noticed when the Matoma goal went in, how we lined up for, to restart play. And Aitnery was almost playing like centre midfield, wasn't he? In terms of the
There was
setup
one
of
there was
weird.
someone mentioned it to me. He did it. I don't know. It was like middle part of last season where there was almost this kick-off tactic that was going about, and loads of teams in Europe were doing it. And Gary Neal got it for Bournemouth, and they scored off it. I think
Yeah, it
Philip
was
Billing.
against Fulham, wasn't it? It was
And I
about
think
10
someone
seconds into the game,
someone
wasn't it?
asked, someone asked if that was the same thing, but I wasn't quite sure in terms of the shape. I
I
don't
don't
think
think it
it
was the
was
same shape, because I'm sure that one was almost like a little
an
pass
overload, wasn't it?
and
As
then
well, yeah.
overload, and then it was
Yeah.
different. But like Aitnery was lining up as a central midfielder basically off the kickoffs, or at least the first 2 anyway. And then you could see we were trying to do something. It was a ball clipped out to Neto, I believe, and both times it didn't work. And like I say, you give the ball away, and I think Sarr was extremely poor for the second goal. I don't think it was exactly a fantastic effort on goal by Welbeck, and he sort of just, you've got to push it out further away from goal. or even behind for a corner, and he just pushed it into an area that Matoma's just been able to like clip the ball back to Esteban, and it's 2-0. And it was just that 5 minutes just felt like a bit of a madness, even being in the ground and stuff like it just felt really weird. And that's how clinical Brighton are, and that's why they'll be up the top end of the table again this year, because they're so clinical and regimented, and the way they perform, like the way they go about it under Zerbi, the killers.
Yeah.
Killers, and it's unbelievable to watch. But they killed that game in 10 minutes, and then we got a goal back, and we huffed and we puffed a bit, but they played the game in reverse, didn't they? For as soon as we put the fourth in, they were like so easy for them.
Yeah, I know. It was frustrating. I thought Wolves had opportunities to again make the scoreline look closer than what it was. Jord, obviously we got the goal in the end, which was for Hwang. I'll be honest, I've not caught the highlights back. I've not sort of got out of my way to do so. So I know they were checking that for VAR. I assume maybe for offside in front of the goalkeeper. I'm not 100% sure. But there was a couple of other opportunities. I think Lamina and Cunha hit the bar, quite close together. Ait-Nouri, when Hwang had a really nice run, I thought Hwang should have shot. He lays it to Ait-Nouri, who's got to take it first time. So these are the opportunities, and they're the positives that we could take, Jord. The ball is getting into the right areas. We have played two teams that are going to be towards like the top end of the table. And as long as Wolves can cut out the stupid areas like that 10 minutes, there is still some positivity to take from it. There was a mass exodus. I know Matt had left probably after about 60 minutes. I did stay till the final whistle, to be fair. What about you, George? Did you hang on or?
No, I saw Matt sneaking out in his
Yeah.
all black tracksuit and short combo he had on. As soon as the fourth goal went in, to be fair, he was off. No, I stayed till about 85, and I was with my mate, and he was going into the town, and I was going back. I was coming back to Old Winford, and we just looked at each other and just like, should we go?
Nah,
I went and got a hot dog instead and walked back to my car. So I didn't see the Nunes sending off in real time. Obviously, I had messages about it. Now watched it back. It's extremely petulant for someone who, let's be honest, is a senior figure in this team, which sounds mad to say. A lot, we need him this year more so than we did last year, and he's got that in him, the petulance. And I mean, we might have been bringing it up anyway, but he's let us down big time. I know it's only a 1-game ban, but it's a 1-game ban against Everton.
Yeah,
we need to go and
it's
we
a
need, we
winnable
need to
game.
go there and win. Yeah, we need to go and win.
Yeah.
And he's let us down massively.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll talk about the red card now because we've pretty much covered everything else. But I thought, we give the referees a lot of stick. I think Andy Madeley on Saturday was extremely consistent. And I've mentioned the bookings last week. I've already mentioned them this week. I think if it works in your favour, then brilliant. I think there were some things that were very, very soft, like balls being kicked away, balls being passed back another 5 yards, which Brighton got punished for very early on in that game.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
And he had to keep that consistency at 4-0 down, Nunes, or 4-1 down, Nunes just put the ball on the floor. He doesn't need to throw it back over the Brighton defender's head to get a cheap booking. And that for me was, Nunes wasn't necessarily time wasting, but it was consistent from the referee. And then, like you say, the second booking is just avoidable. That's just frustration. And I think that's something that will come probably with experience over time. I know you said, he's a leader. He's one of the players that has played at the highest level out of this squad. But he's still a young player, and he needs to learn that stuff like that isn't acceptable. You got to learn to keep your cool. And then frustratingly, we have lost a player, and it's annoying because he's had a really productive pre-season. I thought he had some great moments against Manchester United as well.
Sure.
He had 1 or 2 decent moments on Saturday, probably not as good as we wanted it to be, but a frustrating one, Jord. I don't know if you got any other points on it.
No, it was frustrating from a Nunes point of view. I think we probably want to circle back round to a few of the other points probably that we need to talk about around Jose Sarr and his performance and distribution. I mentioned it on the Twitter space. You could say it's with a few of the Brighton players, but I mean, if you said to me, would you want Jose Sarr in goal or Jason Steele, in terms of just off the pub chat, whatever, a lot of people would say, well, Jose Sarr's a better goalkeeper. Jason Steele was on Sunderland till I die. He's had a bit of a stinker of a career up until he's come to Brighton and he's reformed. And you know what, fair play to him. But the ability with the ball from Jason Steele compared to Jose Sarr was levels and
His
levels and
distribution
levels
was
apart.
very, very good. I got to say that. It was very, very
So
good.
good. And if Gary O'Neill wants to, and again, look, I really appreciate the way that Gary O'Neill's trying to play. I like it. I like that we're trying to play on the front foot, press high. And you know what? It's going to take. We are going to take a few defeats, and we're going to be exposed at times because we're learning the system, etc. But some of the balls that Jason Steele was playing, especially just from goal kicks, like sucking on Lamina and Gomez. Basically, we're playing. We had 6 players basically pressing their box. A few times just rolled the ball across the floor, straight into Encicio's feet, 35, 40-yard ball.
Yeah.
And Enciso was rolling Dawson, and Dawson's getting dragged out. And, that was Dawson's worst game in a Wolves shirt for me as well. I thought him and Kilman were extremely poor. I think that if Gary O'Neill wants to carry on playing this system, that's something we're going to have to look at, because Dawson is fantastic at defending his box in a low block, but very, very good defender. Kilman has got the turning circle of a tank. Like, in terms of he's not a quick guy. He's not good. He's not quick, and we got exposed so many times by just clips out. Simple balls in between the gaps and in the channels and stuff, and they ran us ragged at times. And I think that if that's if that's a system that Gary O'Neill wants to play, and I'm all for it, we desperately need some centre halves, or we need some pace back there, because we've got exposed big time, and that could just be a Brighton thing. But
Yeah.
It's taken De Zerbi watching us at Old Trafford to go, this is how we're going to play for the press, spin the back four, and they beat us comprehensively in the end. So it's something that we need to look at moving forward.
Yeah, they were getting dragged out quite easily, the defenders. I thought there were a couple of times where Semedo probably should have, first half, especially when Brighton were attacking South back end. I thought gave Mitoma a little bit too much space in the wide areas in terms of, they're almost allowing him to run into the box, where, that was where Mitoma had a lot of joy. And obviously we mentioned Sarr as well. I agree. I think the distribution from Steele was very, very good. And that was the one thing I pointed out on goal kicks. It was like the passes were bypassing our attack, our in midfield, and it was going straight to the front players, which was mental to me. And I don't know if that's how De Zerbi's almost got them set up to stretch Wolves and allow that to happen. That's one thing I noticed, that how narrow we were against Manchester United, and how compact we were compared to how stretched we were. And it felt like Brighton had, Wolves were a man down at times, the way Brighton were able to, how quick they were able to move the ball forward. It was frustrating. I know you mentioned the Twitter space, Jord, there. I don't know. I never had a chance to catch up with you. I know it's fairly soonish after the full-time whistle, but what was sort of the general consensus on there?
I think because it was immediately after, I think people were a lot more critical about how things were going, how the game went. Critical about individuals. Sarr got a pepper in, Kilman got a pepper in, and again, I put a tweet out about Kilman, and then someone told me that I got Nuno sacked apparently as well, so I shouldn't be slating Kilman. But anyway, that's another thing. And maybe, Kilman and Dawson were extremely poor. They got found out. And I think people were sort of. I do think people were fair as well on the space, because I think people were giving a lot of kudos to Brighton. I think that Gary O'Neill got a lot of confidence from that Old Trafford performance, and not saying we didn't respect Brighton, because I think we did, but I think he felt we could go toe to toe with them a little bit, punch for punch, and that you're going against a team that has systematically played that system, regimented into them for the past 18 months or so. And that's where we come, unstuck. We lost out in small moments. And like I say, I don't think it was a 4-1 game, but we lost out in the small moments. And again, on the space, I said, if you've got Joe Gomez, Mario Lamina, Mateus Nunes, and and then someone offered you, well, you can replace them with Pascal Gross or Billy Gilmore. I don't think anyone would be saying, I want Billy Gilmore over Nunes or anyone like that. It's just system football, functional football, and it's exactly what we were like under Nuno. When we were playing the 3-5-2, the 3-4-3, people have left Wolves and not had gone on. Cody's been found out, Bolly's been found out, Sace to some extent, can't even get the Besiktas team anymore. Doherty went, is now back. Players find systems and suit systems, and I think that's what Brighton have got. They're a fantastically well-run club. Managers are unbelievable, and they've got the players there to play the system he wants. And people that are already sort of calling out Gary O'Neill, etc., Give him time. I want to see us play this way, and you know what? Still have the faith. Like, we're creating chances and stuff. It will turn. You know, XG. I know people don't like it. I'm a believer in it. Like, you keep creating the volume of chances you've got, you will start putting the ball in the back of the net. So we've got to stick with it.
I think it's disappointing that people like, two very good teams that we've played and, played really well in one, not so well in the other, that people could turn their back on the manager already. Or, I saw a few Facebook posts talking about how we were relegated and so on. So I know it's a really disappointing performance. It should, the overall 90 minutes should be a hell of a lot better. But still, obviously, a long, long way to go. One player that we've not really spoke about, Jord, that I thought, despite the defeat, had another really bright game was Cunha. I thought that every time he got the ball, he drove it forward. He wanted to make something happen. The way he was bringing other players into play, the way he was just gliding past players, it was exciting. Really, really exciting. I know a few people have already drawn the comparisons to Adama Traore, but I have full faith that because Cunha's in a more central position, I think he will start to add more goals and assists to his game. I think he played the ball for the Fabio Silva chance. So there will be more opportunities, like that for him. But I thought, Cunha was really, really bright, and fingers crossed it's another player that we can, rub our hands together and get excited about every week. Any other points to add, Jord, before we bring Brighton chat to a close?
I think we've covered it really. I think, like I say, I think the centre halves playing that system. I'm glad the owners were there on Saturday, because it shows that Gary O'Neill. We know we need a couple in. And especially if he wants to play that style of football, which are back, then we're going to need different personnel in those positions, because Dawson and Kilman to play that sort of high line and aggressive football, I think you need to have a bit of a turn of pace about you, and neither of them have got that. So that's not me discrediting them as footballers. That's just fact. There's going to be a lot of space between the goalkeeper and the centre halves, and that needs to be addressed. And I said it on the space as well. I think as well, if Gary O'Neill wants to play this way, like what De Zerbi did with Brighton, he got Sanchez out and put Steele in. Everyone's going, why the hell has he dropped Robert Sanchez? It's because he wasn't that good with his feet. So if you want to play that way, and you've got to almost, and again, drop a little bit of goalkeeping prowess in Jose Sarr, like if Dan Bentley or Tom King are better on the ball than Jose Sarr, and that's the way you want to play, and there's no money for it, you've got to put them in. You've got to pay Bentley or King.
Yeah,
you've just got to do it, because you can't play that way with Jose Sarr in goal. We've seen it twice now. We saw it back ends of last season as well. Distribution's not his strong point. You've got to be bold and brave, and like I say, drop him and put someone between the sticks who can actually play out from the back like you want to do. Because I think that you see with a lot of this style of football now, Brighton especially, Jason Steele was the catalyst for a lot of their moves and a lot of their attacks on goal, because he's starting it. He's dragging people in, he's stepping on the ball, and he's playing through the lines, and they go. So if that's how we want to play, if there's a better goalkeeper with the ball at the feet than Jose Sarr, let's make that change now. That'd be my opinion anyway.
We saw, Matt, as he was leaving as well, a season ticket thrown on the pitch. It caught a few ways on Twitter. It was on the Football Ramble podcast as well today. So that is proper. Game 2, I just hope and assume the guy was drinking, because that is embarrassing if not. And if you did throw your season ticket on the pitch, I'm sure Wolves will want to speak to you about your replacement, or lack of, possibly as well. So, obviously, guys, if you're listening to the podcast, got any thoughts on the Brighton match or whatever we've said, be sure to drop us a tweet or comment on the video if you are watching on YouTube as well. But Jord, we look ahead to Everton versus Wolves now. It was a game yesterday at court, Villa-Everton. Such a comfortable win for Villa at Villa Park. After a disastrous start to the season against Newcastle for them. Everton, I thought, had an okay week last week against Fulham, but ended up on the losing side as well. But George, you look at this one, the final game, I believe, before the international break, Wolves will want to be trying their best to get something out of this game, won't they?
Yeah, we've got one more. We've got Palace away before the international break.
Oh, over Palace as well?
Yeah.
I've got tickets for that. Is it the second? All right, yeah. So good job. I'd be there on the wrong week otherwise. All right, there you go.
There you go. Yeah, I watched the Villa Everton game, and Everton are shocking.
Yeah.
They're really bad. Like Calvert-Lewin come back in, and again he's getting loads of stick because he's injured again. But I think he has fractured his orbital. To be fair, a nasty clash with Martinez. They've got no McNeil. They've got a few injuries throughout the side.
Yeah.
Bereft of confidence. I always think we're going to Goodison. Keep it quiet. 15 minutes. It turns toxic extremely quickly. The fact they've lost back-to-back games. If we don't concede an early goal, just grow into the game's there for the taking. I think they're a lot worse than us on paper, and
Mhm.
I'd be extremely disappointed if we don't pick up 3 points from what I've seen from Everton so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good job you've said that because I thought Everton was the last one, but we've even got Blackpool next week as well, and I thought, that's weeks away. I'm not going to bother thinking about it. So yeah, good job. I've got tickets for the Palace game as well. I thought it was like 3 or 4 weeks away. Yeah, I mean, they were really, really poor. You look at their, they have had their injury problems. I think Iwobi took a knock towards the end as well, but they'll be disappointed with the goals they conceded because I think a lot of those were far too easy. The penalty was a penalty. It was probably softer than the one we should have had last week. I think it was Pickford on Watkins. Obviously, John McGinn's goal was so easy from the right hand side, and I think it was the John Duran one, the final goal of the game, which was just atrocious. And I think Wolves social media would have been in meltdown if we had conceded a goal like that as well. But yeah, like I said, this is a big game. Everton have been flirting with the bottom three for the last few years, Jord. And even the Palace game, you could say we've got chance of getting something out at Selhurst Park. But 2 away games on the bounce now, it is really, really crucial that Wolves get something out of the match. Any changes, do you reckon, Jord? Obviously, Gary O'Neill had started the team that we were sort of wanting. It didn't quite work out, but Núñez is out now. Do you keep the same lineup, but maybe bring Hwang in for him? Do you think Pablo Sarabia comes back in? What do you reckon?
I mean, like I say, I'm a big Pablo Sarabia fan. I know he's like Marmite on Wolves Twitter, but I'm a big fan of him, and I think he's a very intelligent player, and I think he did quite well when he come on the weekend. But albeit we were 4-0 down when he came on. I would do Sarabia for Fabio, and I'd do Hwang for Núñez. Those would be my two changes. I think there's an argument to say Totti could come in as one of the centre halves, but
yeah,
I don't really know who you drop because I'd say Dawson's our best defender, and Kilman's, whether you like it or not, he's the captain, so it'd be very bold for him to drop Kilman. But Totti would give us a bit more agility at the back and a bit more pace.
I think it would probably be maybe a little. I know they had poor games, maybe a bit too early just to sort of
I agree with that.
wholesale changes after the one defeat. I think these players are good enough to realise the mistakes and how they conceded all 4 goals on Saturday and hopefully learn from them. But I think it's going forward. We're creating the opportunities. I think the first name on the team sheet at the moment is probably Cunha with his creativity. And you build around that. I think Lamina and Gomez will obviously keep their place. So it will be interesting to see. So if you started Hwang and Sarabia, you play Hwang on the left and Cunha back as the number 9, I'd assume.
Yeah, I think that's what you do because I think, like I say, I don't think Fabio did enough. And the fact we're going away from home, we've lost Núñez. We probably need a little bit more experience in that starting 11 as well. I think Sarabia coming in gives us that and gives us a bit more defensive cover because he's not an out-and-out striker, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So, like I say, I think the game plan is go there, look to frustrate him for 10, 15 minutes, get the fans, turn the fans at Goodison against the team, and then just go on and win the game. That's what I think, anyway.
I think Fabio. I think I mentioned this on a video or a preview. The fact that I think it works for him throughout pre-season and even at Manchester United, where he can come on for the last 20, 25 minutes. He's a young lad full of energy. Can run at the players, get in the right sort of areas, and when you're getting a player that can pick the right sort of areas and find the right spaces against tired defenders, I think you're going to have more joy. So that could definitely be, a better idea. But I think Wolves versus Everton, do frustrate them as much as we can. Try and maybe grab an early goal, and I think Goodison will turn toxic very, very quickly. But yeah, they obviously have been unfortunate with injuries. But it's a winnable game for us. I don't think they're a very good side, like you said earlier, Jord. And fingers crossed, it can be our first 3 points of the season. We'll move on to the questions now, Jord. We've got a few on here. Matt's put a few in our agenda, but I'm sure there's loads on Twitter that we could talk about as well. We'll start with Jake Gallagher, who says, hear me out, but could you see Cunha becoming a Joe Linton type player? He likes to drop so deep anyway, and when he makes those runs forward, he's got no one ahead of him. So I'd assume what he means, Jord, is possibly playing him as like a number 8 rather than a forward, like a number 10 or number 9.
I mean, I've heard worse shouts. If I'm honest with you, I understand. I understand what he's trying to say. I mean, possibly, but
I think it's too
I
early
think
for that shout. To be
way
fair,
too early as well. Yeah, I'm the same. I wouldn't want to see it. I wouldn't want to see it yet, like you say. I think, he's had his first full pre-season. Let's give him. I think Joe Linton had a season up top.
he could hit a barn door with a banjo, could he, Joe Linton? He was awful. That's why they had to do what they had to do. Yeah.
He was, yeah, but I think Cunha is showing signs of promise and stuff, and you don't get called up to the Brazilian national team if you shit as well.
Fantastic achievement. Yeah.
So it's one of those things. I think give him the season. I still think he'll get us. I still think he'd get double figures for us this year, Cunha, quite comfortably goals. Anywhere between sort of 10 to 15. I think that's doable.
No, well, if we could get double figures, I think that'd be amazing. Amar's music show, when the big guns from Fosun came to Molineux, which we will talk about a little bit more in a sec, and watched us lose at the start of last season, it culminated in the club spending money on players, example, Nunes. Do you think it'll be the same again after Guau was at Molineux this weekend?
So, again, my opinion on Fosun and what's going on at the moment is different to probably what's being portrayed in the media. Now, I noticed it's sort of changed a little bit recently around FFP, and that being sort of the rhetoric as to why we can't spend. I think the reality is Fosun have turned the taps off because they don't, they're not seeing a return on their investment anymore, and they're quite happy for Wolves just to remain in the Premier League. Yeah. Now, them coming on the weekend, having the first initial conversation with Gary O'Neill, seeing us lose 4-1 to Brighton, who are a team I think we're looking to try and model ourselves on now, more so than going, and spending loads of money at it like we tried to do when we first come in. I think there is money there, and I think from FFP there's around about 55 million approximately we could actually spend now if we really wanted to in funds this window that aren't amortised over the duration. So yes, we could if we wanted to, if in terms of by complying with the law. But if they want to or not, that's completely different. I think there's also, there was obviously problems with Lopetegui behind the scenes. He's asking and screaming for Alex Scott, and maybe they're looking at going, why would we give you 25 million quid when you're telling us you want to leave? Like, it could be that as well. It might be that they met Gary O'Neill. Gary O'Neill goes, right, I want X, Y, and Z. Go, right, here we go. Here's whatever money. Whether those are permanent loan deals or even loans to, with an obligation to buy next window, if FFP is more of a factor than what people believe, then so be it. But I think there could be some. There's got to be incomings in it now. Let's be honest. There's got to be.
Well, it's just over a week till the end of the. When is the deadline? Normally it's the first, but that's a Friday, so it will either be end of next Thursday or Friday. I'm not 100% sure what the deadline is. But yeah, I just noticed Guau wearing all the Wolves merch as well. Normally a nice little suit and tie, but he come in the old the coat, the jacket, the cap. He was loving it, wasn't he? So, well, he wasn't loving the performance, I'd assume, but let's wait and see. Hayden said, on a whole, the last 3 seasons have been pretty boring to watch, and the early signs under O'Neill are that games are going to be more exciting, but will be more end-to-end. Even though the fan base want a different type of football, how long do you give it before some will start to panic? I think some have probably already started panicking, Jord, but I think, like I said earlier, if we go into the international break in 2 weeks' time and we haven't got a point to show for it, I think there's going to be some concerns, isn't there?
Yeah, I think people are panicking far too early as it is at the moment. I think it's okay to panic a little bit if we lose at Goodison on the weekend. I really think that's fair then to probably moan about it. But at the end of the day, like, Fosun have created this. Like, it's not Gary O'Neill's fault. It's not the players' fault. He stands still in the Premier League. He gets solid up. Now, there has been lack of investment in the squad, in the playing squad. I don't think if you panic, we can panic and say what we want to say, but it's not Gary O'Neill's fault. And if Foden aren't going to put the money in the back pocket anyway, what's the point in panicking over something you can't control? You just got to back the process and hope. If we go into the international break with 0 points from 4 games, then you've got 34 games to go and win more points. I know that's not what fans want to hear, and certainly not what I want to believe either. But if those aren't going to put the money in the back pocket, what can you do? You brought in Gary O'Neill, who believes in numbers, believes in data, believes in a style of football. Got to back it. Just got to back it.
Yeah, I think we do. I mean, I'd like to see sort of a comparison. I mean, August historically has never been a good month for Wolves in terms of getting points. Ever since we've come back into the Premier League, never ever been a good month. Nuno went the first month without a win. I know we got a point on the opening day against West Ham, but yeah, Nuno went the first month without a win. And the first 2 seasons, I think, and obviously we finished both of those in decent areas. So I think Everton are a team that are going to be down there. Palace probably going to be a bottom half team. So you would hope, if Wolves could come out the other side of this with between 3 and 6 points, I think that'd be decent. But we'll have to wait and see. But it is going to be a different style of football. I think there's another question which I'll ask about that in a second as well. Donny has said, as Wolves' defence was being destroyed on Saturday, a certain centre-back was playing a starring role for Brentford. George, you'll like this one. Fans there were raving about him. Hope all who slated him, meaning Nathan Collins, is happy now. Semedo, the worst right back in the league, I think is very harsh. Kilman, the worst centre-back in the world. And Dawson, I'm in my 40s and I'm quicker than him. Right, so Nathan Collins won, Jord. Opening games for him at Brentford seemed to be, the Brentford fans seemed to like him. A player that was sold because Lopetegui didn't want him and Lopetegui walked out. So at the moment, that looks like a very stupid decision, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And those people kept telling me that I can't believe what does Jord see in Nathan Collins? Well, just search him on Twitter and see what I saw in him and what other people saw in him, because he's a good footballer. There's just no 2 ways about it. Good footballer. Should have been playing at the back alongside Dawson last year. I think he's a better defender than Kilman. But now we've sold him and he's gone because Lopetegui didn't fancy him. Which is a shame because O'Neill might have. And we're screaming out for a centre half now, so it makes no sense.
Yeah, Semedo, worst right back in the league, very harsh. I'm sure you'd agree.
Just an absolute nonsensical comment. I'm not even going to move on.
Yeah, Kilman, worst centre back in the world. You'll probably agree with that one, to be fair.
No, that's also nonsensical. That's nonsense. But you know my thoughts on him anyway. Yeah.
And Donny is quicker than Craig Dawson. I think if anyone's listening from Wolves, you could set up a race, to be fair, possibly. See, no, he's not quick, but I'm sure he's quicker than most of us anyway. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna say that Donny isn't quicker than Craig Dawson, because I've seen Craig Dawson and he's not extremely quick, is he? Let's be honest. So if Donny was a 100-meter sprinter back in his day, I'm sure he will beat Craig Dawson.
Yeah. There was one thing as well that we didn't mention, Jord, as well. It's not a question, but we didn't mention it during the Brighton section. It was about Neto. So Neto played on the right last week against United. He played on the right again this week against Brighton. Again, he was picking up some really nice positions, but for me, he just kept trying too much. He was cutting it back all the time, and I think Brighton found that out quite quickly. I think if he was able to pick up those positions on his left, I don't know. What do you reckon?
So watching him, I thought he had a really good game at Old Trafford. Probably as good as I've seen him since he's come back from his knee injury. Yeah. I was watching him quite closely on Saturday. Now, the first couple of times he got the ball, he tried to take Estepinian down the line and try and basically.
I think the one he succeeded in taking it round him, but the touch was awful and went out of play, didn't it?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, then I think he tried to go the byline against him a couple of times, Estepinian, got no change out of him and started cutting inside, but he was running into all the traffic. So I just think Estepinian had his number, if I'm honest with you, on the weekend.
Neto versus Milner for me.
Oh no, yeah.
Why not play him on the left, or even it can happen during games where you swap wingers occasionally, maybe every 20 minutes or so, or swap the sides.
They did swap for about 5 minutes in the first half, and then they didn't do it again. Him and Nunes swapped for a little bit, but yeah, I just think Estepinian had Neto's number. Like, Neto had a great game against Luke Shaw at Old Trafford and got the better of him, and I just think Estepinian got the better of him on the weekend. It can happen.
I just don't like. Again, we're not football coaches. We don't spend 6 days a week at Compton with the players. But if I'm looking at James Milner, who's going to be starting for Brighton, I'm pinning my most talented and quickest winger against him. I don't know, James Milner's a good player, experience. He's going to know at times the right things to do. But in a foot race, he's not going to beat Pedro Neto. So, but Nunes is a player who's obviously got a bit of pace about him, but I think he likes to run from deep with the ball, not necessarily sort of bearing down on the wing. So I don't think that worked in his favour so much. But Neto versus Milner for me would have been one to at least try for more than, like you said, 5 minutes anyway. But who knows? It'll be interesting to see if he picks up that right hand side position again. Charlie WWFC 37, he said Alfie Pond is now seemingly the fourth choice centre half at the club. Do you think he could be included much this season? So I think he started for the 21s tonight. Centre back Jord will be an interesting one over the next 10 days or so to see if Wolves bring anyone in. I saw that Elvedi was again omitted from the Mönchengladbach side, and their reason was in order not to endanger a possible transfer through an injury. So it sounds like something is imminent for him. It sounds like Wolves have been the main team linked with him. It's just whether Wolves want to put their hand in their pocket. But with deals like this, Wolves may well be using the waiting game, because the closer to next Friday it gets, the transfer value for Elvedi surely is going to come down and down and down, and Wolves have got more room for negotiation. Because they have to say, if they want money, they have to sell him this summer.
Yeah, and it's either, like you say, it's either that or we truly haven't got a pot to piss in, and we're just playing them. But again, like, I think it was obviously a rumour that came back when Lopetegui was still at Wolves. O'Neill might not fancy him. It might be as simple as that, or O'Neill might not. He might not have enough data on him or watched him enough to make an opinion on him. We definitely we're screaming out for a centre half. Like 100%. Like I say, I think we need two mobile centre halves to play the system he wants to play. But again, what I'll do for this window for sure. Alfie Pond, I've not seen a lot of him. I can't. I think we got him from Cheltenham, did we?
Yeah,
he's from Cheltenham. Come with like a good reputation. I think it'd be extremely unfair to chuck him in a Premier League game, untested. He might see that he might play against Blackpool, and that might be a good yardstick to just see how he is in the Carabao Cup game. But I think it's, unless he's a world beater, which he can't be because he'd already be playing for Wolves, he'd already be playing in this team, then I think it'd be very unfair to stick him in at a Premier League level. We need help. We need recruits.
Yeah. So he came from Exeter, sorry, not Cheltenham.
Sorry.
But I think next week could be an interesting one against Blackpool to see if he starts. I think him and Totti would be maybe a little bit too much of a risk. I think you'd possibly start, to be fair, you might start Totti and Dawson or Kilman. But he may get some minutes in that game, or Wolves might well look to loan him out. I think there were teams. Cheltenham might be one of the teams linked with him, Jord. I think Shrewsbury had been linked with him as well. But from Football League, people, I think I've said it before, people I've spoken to at Football League, he's a very, very highly rated young defender. So we'll have to wait and see on that. He may well get some opportunities. Andrew Ward, who replaces Gary O'Neill? This guy's clearly out of his depth, and it's time for him to go. That's genuinely a question. Well, that's genuinely what somebody had said. So 2 games into the season, and I wonder why Matt's put that one on there for us to discuss, George.
He's done that, and he's not on the pod. Just stupidity, like I said. Like, I think at the end of the day, Gary O'Neill's at Wolverhampton Wanderers now. He's been given a 3-year deal. Whatever you think about Gary O'Neill and the way he came in and the circumstances of that, you've got every opinion of that. I think it's extremely naive and rash to rule him out just yet. I think that at the end of the day, it's not his fault he's here. He obviously applied for the job and he wanted the job, but it's not his fault he's here. He's been appointed by Fosen in very testing circumstances where he can't well, so we're told, can't spend any money. Got to work with what he's got, and he's trying to implement a style and a system which he believes in. I think that he might have to adapt if we get to 6, 7, 8 games where we're picking up negative results. I think at that point it almost feel a little bit soul back, and when he replaced McCarthy, trying to play a system and style with the wrong set of players. But I don't think that is the case. We're creating chances. We should have got something out of United. We probably should have won the game, let alone got a point out of it. And we had 10 minutes of madness against Brighton. So I think, we're unlucky to be on 0 points at the moment. I think at least one would have been fair. Just got to back him, like I said. I think it's siege mentality. Back Gary O'Neill, back the players that are there. And maybe I've got to take my own words of advice there when I'm getting on Sarr or Kilman's back. But it's tricky. I mean that in jest. It's you just got to, he's here. He's 2 games in. Give him a break. I
Very,
think
very harsh.
definitely, I've seen enough. Especially at Old Trafford, more so, that gives me a lot of positivity around the appointment. I'm not saying he's the most glamorous appointment, but Nuno wasn't either when he came in. Just give him some time, give him a chance, and see where we go.
Well, it'll be interesting to see. Well, I think I compared it to the Bruno Lage thing last week, and you sort of said it there as well, where 3 or 4 games which were really, really good, and Lage almost changed the way we played, and it was more boring. You could say a lot more negative. It got the job done for 75% of the season. Unfortunately, lost a little bit of momentum, and that ultimately cost Bruno Lage possibly even his job. I know, he lost his job maybe 6 months after that, but without that momentum, Wolves could have even been in Europe. We'll finish on one. Jonah as well. It put a question. When playing a team like Brighton, you have to see teams adjust their structure and style of play, like setting up more defensively. But what are your thoughts on Gary O'Neill staying with quite a positive and aggressive setup? I think the aggressive side, it weren't too aggressive or not aggressive enough, Jord, on Saturday. But is this naive from O'Neill or quite brave? I think you've still got to have full belief in your own way of playing, haven't you? I think, of course, you're going to look at teams like Manchester United or Manchester City, and it's very rare that people are going to play front-footed football. But at the same time, you don't want to change your structure too much that you're changing the way you play every single game.
No, I think I touched on it a bit earlier on. I think he got a lot of confidence from the performance at United, and maybe it was a little bit naive to he just thought, well, we'll just do what we did at Old Trafford again. And Brighton were just too cute for us. And that's what happened. I think he's a very inexperienced manager still. I know he had some youth team coaching with Liverpool set up in the academy there. Then he had the Bournemouth job. And he's coming to us. But maybe it's a little bit naivety. But again, I think he's very confident and self-assured in himself, especially how he comes across in interviews and stuff. And he believes in the style and philosophy, and good on him. If that's the way he wants to play, there might be a few teething problems with that. We might take a few defeats, but at the end of the day, asking a lot of Wolves fans before the ball was kicked before the start of the season, everyone had written us off anyway. A lot of the media had written us off. I think there's a good argument to say if Gary O'Neill comes 17th this season, he's done his job. Yeah. I think the playing squad and the ability we've got is better than that. A few places, positions higher than that. But if he keeps in the league this year, he's done his job. So yeah. I think he'll do that as well. I think we'll do it comfortably still. No need to panic it just yet.
2 games gone. We should, and obviously very disappointed in the matter and the way that we lost on Saturday, but I think there's still plenty of time to go and still winnable games coming up for Wolves. We'll be back next Tuesday, and should be a release next Tuesday. Our reaction to that game against Everton. Hopefully it's celebrating 3 points, of course. As I've learned today, we do play Blackpool next Tuesday and Crystal Palace a week on Sunday as well. So I'll make sure I need to sort my travel plans and actually sort tickets out for the Blackpool game as well. Jord, it's been a pleasure, and it's just been the 2 of us, but we've managed to chat all about football, especially despite a disappointing weekend. A lot of good fun. Where can people find you if they wish, mate?
So at JordRuss7 on Twitter and Instagram. Also on LinkedIn, if you didn't know, Jordan Russell. I was going to say as well, plan is to do another space as well after the Everton game. I'm sure. Well, Dave, you'll be going. I'm here.
I'm not going. I'm not actually going.
You're not
going? No, I'm not going. I'll be working, but so I'll watch the game. But I'll come in the space with you after.
Yeah, so we'll do the space again. Emma's going away with her mum and dad with the animals. So I've got a bank holiday weekend to myself.
Bosh.
Bosh.
We should do it down the pub then, Jord.
Yeah, we'll go Womban Pool Bar, mate, if you want.
Yeah, we'll do the pool bar. Saturday night pool bar space. Talking Walls meet up live. Yeah.
Yeah, could do.
No, we'll talk about it. We'll see. I'm at Dave as a party everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, obviously the LinkedIn as well. We're at Talking Walls everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter for all the latest Walls news and transfer rumours. If you enjoyed today's podcast, if you're listening on YouTube, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, be sure to leave us a review. Enjoy your week, guys. Fingers crossed it's 3 points on Saturday against Everton, and we will catch you all very, very soon.